So you're the Charles Barkley of performance art.
Exactly, dude. I'm not a role model. You don't want your kids to be like me one whatsoever.
This Pimpin' a Blimp, Primetime 99, right? We talked about you were on these shows, right? You've been on the Glass House, you did Cheaters, you were on Worst Cooks in America. I want to first talk about Cheaters, right? Talk about your role on Cheaters, and then you were passed up for the hosting gig. I've seen you talk about that. It was kind of an affirmative action thing. Cool, whatever. So let's talk about there first, and then I want you to follow up. And I want to know how real that show is, because reality isn't necessarily reality.
Well, of course, and I signed an NDA, so I can only say so much. But your assumptions are probably 1,000% correct with Cheaters. Publicly, I've been kind of, I don't say too much, but it's just like all reality TV. I will say this: there's no script, but everything else is, like any TV show. There's a lot of production involved. But this is the thing. When it comes to reality TV and where that's applicable to today, is that we were really doing that now. There was a reality TV show bust, and you're like my age, so you probably remember like Survivor when that first came out, and Big Brother, and then after that, it started to be like the IRL type reality shows where it's like Anna Nicole Smith, where they would just kind of film a celebrity at their house. And then it was like the Married Life, Surreal Life, Flava Flav. There was this boom of reality TV content because the studios and all of the big production companies realized, hey, we can make this content for a quarter of the price, and it's going to get even more viewers in the highly produced sitcoms or, dramas or dramedies or whatever genre. Reality TV was just easier to produce. And what's happening today is now we are all reality TV show producers. And they're like, right now we are producing a show. This is reality TV. We're just talking. Anything can happen. And that's the new era. So it's kind of crazy. All my experience doing these crazy stunts for Cheaters and running in nail salons and confronting people with a camera. Now I've just applied all that to confronting, for famous athletes like Brittany Griner, or famous politicians like Dan Crenshaw, or, Ted Cruz or AOC. So reality TV, it was very applicable. The only thing, I need to stop using that word, but the only problem is I should have started doing this a lot sooner, because this is what people want to see. This is the new era of content, and it's the independent content creator.
Okay, so you've obviously you've had these stunts. You talked about how you are a performance artist, right? You're not really you're not a political guy, but you just kind of put it out there and you kind of shove what they're saying in their face. And, it's kind of like a dog pooping. You kind of put their nose in it and you say, like, look what you've done type of thing.
Very astute observation. Correct. I would say
thank you.
Correct.
So when you look at your career, right, you talk about how you haven't necessarily blown up. It's been a long grind to kind of be notable in the space. You could see why, you being on reality TV with Cheaters and Glass House, Worst Cooks in America. On those shows, you said you wanted to play a character. You said you wanted to be the villain, right? What do you say when people say that you're more or less playing a character now? You're playing the villain, or you're a clout chaser or a grifter?
Well, that's true. I mean, this is I want to make one thing. I won Grifter of the Year, but this is one thing I want to make clear. I feel like the difference between a grifter and somebody that's, trying to self-promote or, become a person of notoriety or something, is a grifter, I think, tells lies or tries to sell you like snake oil. I don't try to do that. I mean, I don't really try to sell you anything. I mean, if you watch my show and you would, patronize one of our sponsors, I would like that. But really, at the end of the day, I don't even want you to agree with me. I'm not a role model. I'm the opposite of that. Like, do the opposite of me. I'm not somebody to look up to. So that's why I don't necessarily consider myself a grifter, because I'm not like, hey, do this, do that. This is going to change your life. I really try to just be like the opposite. I just kind of want to be like a jester and make fun of stuff. But no, I get that. I'm trying to chase clout. You'd be stupid. It'd be dumb not to. It'd be dumb not try to interview important people or not try to confront politicians. Like, I mean, that I can't really argue very much.
Okay. So, I mean, that's interesting. So, but you have this background, right? Like I said, of Cheaters, and we talked about that. You went on the Glass House. Your whole idea was you want to play the ultimate villain. and you
Yes,
had,
and I
you had
still want to
America.
be the villain. No, but
Right.
I have to cut you off though, Craig, because the reason why is I loved professional wrestling. I don't know if you did, but
Okay.
I loved it. And I
Okay.
love The Undertaker. I love Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, that's my favorite stuff. And I like the idea of going from babyface to heel to babyface to heel. That's what I try to do is I try to sometimes be the heel. Sometimes I try to babyface. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I piss people off. But it kind of goes to where like, we talk about performance artists. I mean, I do these weird performance and these weird stunts, but I try to be like Andy Kaufman. I try to be bizarre and weird on purpose. So like the idea that like a grift, no, do not be like me. Do not put on a women's bathing suit and run around Target. Do not do the opposite of what I do if you're going to follow any of my directions.
Okay. So you mentioned Kaufman, professional wrestling, obviously. One thing that old school professional wrestlers and Andy Kaufman received a lot were death threats, and you've received death threats. You've talked about how they're kind of an honor before, they're kind of like, they're cool because they're almost like, they almost raise your persona a little bit, right? It makes, you're still that bad guy. What's the worst death threats that you've received? And have you actually had any attempts on your life?
Well, it's funny because I get a lot, and there's actually some of my DMs. I could probably find them right now. And the only reason I don't share them is I'm always worried. I'll always. Oh crap! Sorry, I'm reading this text message from Roseanne. Okay, all right. I'm on a podcast. I'll call you after. Sorry about that. I got like 5 text messages. When I get the death threats, usually they're all fake from sock accounts, but I don't share them because they're so disgusting. Like, I want to rip this. I don't even want to say it for YouTube for terms of service, but actual threats, are they scary? No. But me even sharing them, I feel like, oh, and I get a lot of anti-Semitic stuff. I get a lot of, because that's another thing. I started off talking a lot about conspiracies with my podcast because that's what I was interested in. Because I was like, what the hell am I going to talk about? That's the first kind of problem that always we have as podcasters. Like, what are we going to talk about when we press live or we hit record? And so I was just really into conspiracies, and now I forget my train of thought. What was I talking about? Oh, the death threats. What I'm saying is, yeah. So now when I kind of blew up and Tucker Carlson had me on and I had all these viral videos, everybody's like, oh, well, you're part of the Jewish Illuminati. You're not talented. You're a plant. You're an industry plant. Like they're calling that Bobby Altihoff girl or whatever. I don't know if you know the girl I'm talking about who's just been podcasting for a month and has already interviewed like Drake and Mark Cuban and Lil Yachty. My point is everybody thought, so I get hate from the conspiracy people. They're like, it's impossible to go from a small podcast to having a show on the Blaze, which is not impossible. But yeah, so I get hate from the conspiracy side, and then I get hate from the left, and then I get hate from the right too, because I'm not conservative enough, because I'm not super conservative. I think we should have socialized healthcare. I believe like the system is racist towards black people. I think that, we have a corrupt judicial system that, marginalizes people. So I'm actually, I have a little empathy for some of these marginalized groups without trying to sound like a virtue signaler or some BLM person, oh, I love BLM. I do want to help black people. Not that everybody on the right doesn't, but I just think sometimes my messaging doesn't always 100% align with the people that like want me to be their leader. And I'm not that. I'm my own person. I think I'm the anti-leader.
So you're the Charles Barkley of performance art.
Exactly, dude. I'm not a role model. You don't want your kids to be like me whatsoever.